Hello, this is Gary Parker. I just wanted to give you some tips on using Canvas for this quantitative literacy class, Math 98. So remember, from the home page in Canvas, there are due dates for anything that is due for a grade, so due date and points. If you go into an assignment after the due date, what you should see is that you have the option to practice that assignment. And when you do that, what it does is bring up a new version of the assignment, not the one you had before. So I can see here that the last time I worked on this assignment was the 22nd. It was due the 25th, and it's now after the 25th. So I have a score of 58.3. And when it's in practice mode, it's not going to change my grade. I can review the assignment that I got this grade on here, or I can practice some new problems. So if I was getting ready for a test, I might want to go into the practice mode. And so that just looks at the original assignment. But if there's any problems that had numbers generated for them, then the problem is going to be slightly different than the one you had the first time, maybe. But it starts new where I can work on that problem, and then I can submit them. All right. And again, it's reminding me here, it's in practice mode. Now it is going to record a practice score for you, and that will get recorded in the system, but it's not in the grade book, okay, because it's in practice mode. Otherwise, what should happen is if you're doing assignments before the due date, like homework 1.3.1 here, there's no message on the side here. It says there's 36 possible points, but there's no record that I've done anything yet. So that means I'm starting the assessment. And so then I can go and take a look at it. So the diagram above is missing. Interesting. Oh, there it goes. A little slow to load. Okay. So, I try to answer the question to the best of my ability, and let's suppose I think the answer is 6, and then I try to write an expression for it, and maybe I think it's something like 6 plus 4n. And it said I had a syntax error at first because it was waiting for that n. If you type an x by mistake, it might say, hey, check your variables, so pay attention to those messages. They can be helpful. And then I submit the question, and I can see I got them both wrong. So I'm going to write some work on paper. Now, again, these problems are online, but you can't do math without writing it on paper. All right, so I'm going to redraw these pictures probably. I'm going to sketch out some numbers. I'm going to do some arithmetic and play around until I can get this figured out. And I can keep doing it over and over again. After a few times, my answers haven't changed. Let's try that again. Let's suppose they're 75. If you don't get it right after a few times, then you'll be shown the answer. And then you have to try a similar question. So up here at the top now I can say, okay, I want to get this right. So I read what their answer is here, and then I try to figure out how that works, and then I go try a similar question. Now sometimes the question is going to look exactly the same, and sometimes it will look much different. It just kind of depends on the type of problem. If after seeing the answer you still don't get it, then send me a message. Okay? And don't just write, I didn't get it. Tell me what you tried. Be specific. If you just write, I don't get it, I'm going to write back, well, what didn't you get? Help me out here. All right. So again, we have practice mode, which is also called review mode for the problems, and then we have the active mode where we're actually getting a grade and changing our grade. And you can jump from problem to problem here, or you can see a drop-down list of all the problems that you need to answer and go through them in any order you want. The next and previous buttons on the bottom take you to a whole different assignment. So you want to make sure you finish all questions in a particular assignment before you move on to next or previous. If you've had enough of this and you just want to see what's next, hey, that's cool. You can do that. So I can go to next, see what my next assignment is, do that maybe, and then I can always go back to the previous one and work on it some more. So these assignments you can go in and out of. So here I can see that I don't have any points yet. I'm going to continue it, and I can try some more of these problems. All right. So other things to note. Sometimes you're going to have to upload a file for me, and that happens in a couple of different ways. So in this week's discussion, share your work, you're going to have to upload a file, and that's going to happen in a couple of different ways. So we've got this pattern that we need to look at, like the things in the lesson, and you're going to answer a few different questions for me. And the last one says, hey, make a spreadsheet based on this problem. And I have a tutorial video about a slightly different problem. And I tend to use Google Drive and Google Sheets these days, so I have a Math 98 folder, and in there I'm going to have files for my work. So here's my lesson 3.1 that I'm working on for Share Your Work. Now this is a slightly different set of numbers. Again, it's not the one you have. Blow this up a little more. So don't look at my numbers and think that's what your answers are supposed to be. I don't want to give everything away here. So let's suppose I'm done with this. I have my two different ways of calculating the numbers. In let's say my problem, I had to add 5 to get to the next number. Okay? And then I realized that, oh, adding 5 over and over again means I need to multiply by 5, starting with 9 boxes. Okay, so let's suppose that was the pattern I had to work with. So I have two different formulas that are going to get me the answer. So this column does it one way, this column does it the other way. They agree on the numbers. So that's what I'm looking for from you. And the video goes over that if you haven't watched it yet. What I'm curious about now is how to get this to my teacher. So in Google, you just share and then get the shareable link if you haven't already. Google will then copy that link for you. It says copy to my clipboard. So then I can just go to my assignment here and I can put a reply. And then here, there's two ways to get it in. I could just paste it in, but that looks kind of nasty. If I do choose to do that, I want to hit enter after so it becomes a hyperlink so that someone can click on it and see my work. Okay, that's ugly. What I want to do is something like this. Type some text, like my spreadsheet, and then highlight. Actually, I'm going to do a little different. Let's write here is, so according to the writing principle, right, we're supposed to do good writing. And then I'm just going to highlight the word spreadsheet, and I want to make that a link. And that's where I paste in what Google gave me, and then I insert it. So that anyone else that sees my post can just click on that, and that'll take them to my spreadsheet. Now, other people can't edit it. They get a view-only version of it, and I'll show you that in a sec. If you're not a Google user, maybe you're using Excel or you're using Apple's Numbers program, then you'll have to save your file. So here's me working in my other program. Here I did the autofill option, right? The pattern is always add 5 for me. So I highlight the pattern, use the magic fill button, regenerate those numbers. And over here I use that formula, 5 times plus 9. And again, this isn't your pattern, this is my pattern. So I want to share this with everybody. So I first have to make sure it's saved. And so save it however you do in your particular program. This is OpenOffice or LibreOffice Calc, by the way. And then I need to remember where I saved it because now I want to attach it. So there's an attach button here somewhere. Where's attach? There it is, down at the bottom. So I click attach, and then I choose my file. I have to go to wherever I saved it on my computer. There it is. And then they put it there. And then I can post. So if you do attach a file, you should put a note about the attachment. Okay, and you're going to do one or the other. You don't have to do both. Okay, so if I'm a Google user, I'm just going to have this right here, and I'm not going to have an attachment. If I'm not a Google user, then I'm going to have a note about what I'm posting, and I'm not going to have the link to the Google. You're going to do one or the other. You don't need to do both. Okay? Just for demonstration purposes, I'm doing both, and then put it in there. Now, unfortunately, you can't edit your replies after you do them. So if you didn't have that complete, then you'll reply to reply, like, oh, I forgot to answer the other questions, right? So now I need to answer question A, B, and C. Oh, there we go. So I can add that to my reply by replying to my reply. Okay. So and again, some technology is new to us, and so it might take a few tries to get this right for each person. All right, I think that's all I had for you for now. If you have any questions for me, please get in touch with me as soon as possible, and stay in touch and do good math. Bye-bye.